And we're live. Hi guys, I'm Alice. I'm usually behind the camera, but today I'm in front of it. So I might be looking down a bit because I will be checking for your comments. Today is our second Facebook Live of the week because there's been a little bit of controversy happening surrounding Facebook and passwords.
Yes, there has.
Duck, can you just remind us of the story, please?
Well, the story is Facebook has admitted that for many years, inadvertently, it has been storing users' passwords somewhere inside its network in what's called plain text. Now, normally, you're not supposed to store an actual password. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to store a cryptographic version of the password that doesn't reveal what the password was. But it turns out that what Facebook has been doing is they've actually been saving passwords in log files somewhere inside their network. They've realized this as part of a security audit. It is a very bad look for Facebook, but what it doesn't mean is that there hasn't been a giant breach where crooks have made off with a huge database that has all the passwords in. So you're not likely to show up in a website like Have I Been Pwned? This is not like they've run away with loads and loads of passwords and crooks can now be trying to log in. But it is very embarrassing for Facebook. Basically, they've had this data. They're supposed to throw away password data as soon as they've finished with it. They haven't, and they've accidentally saved it to a disk in their network.
So one of the questions we got on Instagram, which by the way, if you're not following us, it's just @NakedSecurity on Instagram, was, is this anything to do with the Facebook outage that happened last week?
Yeah, it's easy to connect those together. You think, oh, there was an outage, maybe that's because crooks got in and the network broke and they made off with the passwords and that you don't get smoke without fire and all that stuff. The good news is you can assume that that is a coincidence. The outage had nothing to do with storage inside Facebook's network. That wasn't at all what it was about. The outage was about availability, and ironically, that was where people couldn't log in. And the good news with this password problem is the password problem wasn't in the part of Facebook that you actually negotiate with when you are actually logging in, when you're actually presenting your password. It was something that happened later and deeper inside the network. So I don't think those things are connected at all. The outage was a management of the servers problem, and the passwords is a what Facebook has been doing with data problem.
So I use Facebook quite a lot for work, clearly, and I was wondering, and this is something that a lot of people are asking, should you consider deleting Facebook entirely?
Well, my opinion is that if you think that Facebook is not a company you trust for privacy reasons, if you think they collect too much data, if you're worried about how you behave and maybe give away too much and you want to stop yourself doing that, then over the past few years, you already have had enough reasons why you might want to shut down your account. And so, in my opinion, if you are going to close down your account for all the things that have happened recently, this is not the reason to do it. It might cause you to lose a bit more trust in Facebook. It is egg on their face. It does show they have feet of clay. It does show their programmers aren't perfect. But in this case, this isn't about what Facebook is doing and how it is sharing your data. It isn't about exactly what it's collecting in order that it can monetize or sell it on. It's basically just poor network security practice inside their network. So I wouldn't worry too much about this. In particular, in my opinion, and this is what I am not going to do this, I am not going to close down my Facebook account, and if I were minded to, I wouldn't use this incident as the single reason why I would. I think I'm happy enough with what Facebook does with my data. I'm happy enough with how much I share with them, and so I think it's pretty obvious that this is not the thing to drive you away. So don't delete your account on this basis, just on this basis because you're scared. The problem is that if you do that, you might regret it later. So think about it first, and then decide whether you want to delete your Facebook account for a variety of other reasons.
Perfect. So what other advice would you give generally about staying secure on Facebook and social media generally?
Well, in this particular case, there are two things you can and should do immediately. One is go and change your password. Don't wait for Facebook to contact you and say you're one of the guys whose password showed up inside their network somewhere. There are somewhere between 1 million and 100 million people that we think who are probably going to get contacted by Facebook. So go and change your password. That way the password you have now can't possibly match the passwords that may or may not be lying around deep inside their network. The reason we're saying change your password is everyone's got a Facebook password, so you might as well make the old one irrelevant. And the second thing that you need to do, if you haven't done it already, turn on two-factor authentication. To be very fair to Facebook, This breach is a bad look, but how they deal with authentication, how they deal with two-factor authentication has always been, in my opinion, a bit of a model of excellence. They do it well. You can have two-factor authentication where they'll send a code to your mobile phone, or they'll let you use an app on your phone if you don't fancy sharing your telephone number with Facebook, and various other ways you can use. And what that means is that if somebody does get your password, if some rogue employee inside Facebook did see your password in a log file, did retrieve it, did go outside the Facebook network and try to log in, they wouldn't be able to because they wouldn't have that one-time code that you and you alone have. So turn that on for Facebook if you haven't already. And by the way, go and do that for any other account you have, whether it's a bank account or a social networking account or an email account. For any other service we'll support it. It's 2% less convenient for 98% more security and safety.
Perfect, great advice as always, Jack. So if you do have any additional questions, do comment them below and we will try and get back to you. As Jeff mentions, you can comment even if you don't have a British accent. But yeah, do comment below and we'll get back to you. Thanks, guys.